Howdy everyone, it's Sam. Welcome to the Wobble Enjoy Sports channel. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider liking the content and subscribing to the channel. But if you are a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. We're up to round 4 of the 2023 NRLW season, and I don't think there is a clear-cut premiership favourite yet. So let's get stuck straight into the round for me tips. Round 4 of the 2023 NRLW season starts on Saturday morning from 11 a.m. The St. George Illawarra Dragons host the Canberra Raiders from WIN Stadium in Wollongong. There are no odds out for any of the games for round 4 this weekend, but I would hazard a guess and I would say that the Raiders would be coming into the game as favourites, sitting at about $1.70, I would suggest, and the Dragons at about $2.10. A couple of changes for the St. George Illawarra Dragons going in at fullback. Berry, Vella, Brown, Law, Lendill, Nathan Wong, and Racine McGregor are the backline. And then the forward pack, Tiakaranga Katoa. Target comes back into the dummy half position. Taniai, Sautia, Bright, and Cowan round out the forward pack. And then the interchange bench reads Hopkins, Riordan, Murdoch, and Weatherall. And for the Canberra Raiders, there's only one change. Mackenzie Wiki has a foot injury. She plays centre. She's out, and in comes Alana Dummett. She will make her NRLW debut this weekend for the Canberra Raiders. This is obviously the first ever meeting between the two sides, and it is a game that has that pits the second worst completionists in the Canberra Raiders taking on the best in set completions, the St. George Illawarra Dragons, but they are on opposite ends of the NRLW ladder. One of the reasons why the Dragons are also down there, even though they're completing well, they give out way too many sets. Their discipline, while they're not the worst, I think at times they just have like these 20-minute blocks where just they keep on offending, giving six agains or giving away penalties. Their discipline was poor last weekend against the Eastern Suburbs and is, or was, in my opinion, the clear-cut reason as to how and why they lost that game. And the reflection of the reflection of the game in the scoreline, it's not a true reflection. The Dragons worked their asses off in that game, but then just they gave away too much possession and too many penalties, and that's what kicked them in the backside. Also, for the Canberra Raiders, one of the reasons why they're going so well is because they are one of, if not the best, kick return meters in the game. And Apia Nichols is the best kick return meter, better than Tamika Upton, better than Corbin Baxter. She's killing it at the moment, and that's how they're getting their sets going off to a great start are the Canberra Raiders. This is a tough game to tip, man, because the Dragons, they're not bad, but their discipline is really hurting them. It's going to be interesting as well to see how Racine McGregor and Nathan Wong also utilise the kicking game to try and stop Nichols from returning it so well as she's done all season. Hard game to tip. Not with a whole lot of confidence. I'm going to tip the Canberra Raiders to keep their winning ways going on. They weren't too bad in their debut game against the Sharks in Sydney. They travel away for the first time since round 1. The Dragons back in front of their home fans. They did put the cleaners through the Parramatta Eels a fortnight ago, but yeah, this Raiders side, I thought they might be underestimated coming into this season. It's a strong pack, like Samoa Mataufa just absolutely killed it last weekend. I think they can win 1-12 this weekend, can the Canberra Raiders. On the same day, we have a double header to look forward to that emanates from Totally Workwear Stadium in Brisbane. The first of which sees the North Queensland Cowboys take a home game down to Brisbane to host the in-form West Tigers. I would tend to suggest, I would predict that the Tigers would be the favourites coming into the game at about $1.80, whereas the Cowboys would be $2. The Cowboys, their first ever home game was not Not good. I can't stand here and say it was, a great effort and all that jazz. Like, there was effort, but the performance overall, unfortunately, was not good. A lot of missed tackles and just Hofanga just filled me freaking nightmares, has filled me nightmares over the past couple of nights. Meanwhile, the West Tigers went down valiantly in a high quality game against the Canberra Raiders down at GIO Stadium, and it was the first time I've had a true opportunity to sit down and see how these West Tigers ladies go. And holy crap, they are a nice machine, man. They're a nice oiled machine. I really like how they play their footy. Really tough, bro. And I mean, you've got Kezi Apps and Sarah Tokatuki in there as well. So, I mean, of course, they're going to be pretty freaking tough. So, a couple of stats to go off on. The Cowboys, they miss more tackles than any other team so far in the NRLW. That needs to be rectified. And then also, they are the second worst team in the NRLW for conceding penalties as well. So they're missing tackles and conceding a lot of meters at the same time. And I think it was definitely, I mean, that was the case in this game against the Broncos this past weekend. And then looking at the West Tigers stats, they are first for offloads by a pretty big margin, by 20 at the very least. So these Cowboys not only should they have to hit and stick, they need to wrap that son of a bitch ball up as well. Also, the Tigers, and they are third for decoy runs. Kezi Apps has more decoy runs than any other player in the NRLW at the moment. So these Cowboys, they can't be so condensed. I'm seeing that they're playing too or defending way too condensed. They need to spread out more, and they all need to come up and not come up in like an umbrella formation. They need to come up a bit, and they just need to be patient and not fall for these decoy runs. I know it's easier said than done, and who the hell am I, right? But this is going to be a really, really tough game for the Cowboys. So let's go into the team list news now. And in at fullback was Francesca Goldthorpe, and I thought it was actually, in a losing effort, her best game to date. I thought she was really, really good. The wingers, China Palata, her stint in the forward pack over the past couple of weeks, she's moved back into the wing, and Autumn Rain Stevens Daly maintains her position on the wing. The centres, Maya Middleton returns after serving suspension, and Jasmine Peters also remains in the centres. And the halves pairing is Kira Dibb and Tallulah Tillett returns after suffering a hand injury or a broken hand. She has not made her NRLW Cowboys debut yet. It happens this Saturday, and she is exactly what we need. And with all due respect to Crystal Blackwell, she's still so young, so raw, and she has been dropped from this game. She still sits in the reserves list, but Tallulah Tillett is exactly what the Cowboys need, and just more experience, a bigger boot on her as well, or just another boot, because Kira Dibb was doing most of the kicking over the first 3 weeks of the comp. So awesome to see Tallulah Tillett, and she is a diehard North Queensland fan. So that's sensational. The forward pack now: Talisha Harden, Emma Manselman, and April Natapuna are the starting forward pack, and we'll see if Harden reverts back to the bench to start with. And April Natapuna has been a tower of strength, especially last weekend. And the back row is Power, Shelley Long, and Mackenzie Wheels. So Bree Chester has been dropped down to the reserves, and I mean, Crystal Blackwell, Autumn Rain Stevens Daly, and Jasmine Peters. It wasn't Stevens Daly, it was Fatalina Nakore. That right edge defensively for the Cowboys, just so raw, so young and raw, and just some changes have had to be made. And Shelley Long, I'm sure she can hit and stick. She's had a pretty good year all around, including Queensland Cup. And then the interchange bench reads Sarah Karoy, who made an impact off the bench last weekend. Fatalina Nakore comes off in jersey 15. And then Essay Banu and Jessica Reeves, a couple of Papua New Guinean internationals, fingers crossed, make their debut this weekend. So yeah, hopefully they do. I know, and we all know now that a lot of changes can happen in the NRLW before kickoff, but hopefully Barnu and Reeves make their debut, because I do think that we need a lot more size coming off the bench and in and around the forward pack as well, coming up against this West Tigers outfit. And there have been changes. So unfortunately, uh, Bo Vetty Walsh suffered concussion in the loss to the Canberra Raiders. She is omitted from the side, which is so unfortunate. I really wanted to see her play live. But in at fullback is Pele Rasa. But in at fullback is Rassablay, Pele Rassablay. She played 5'8" this past weekend against the Canberra Raiders and looked hot to trot, bro. Holy crap. She's got a great kicking game on her. Great flick as well. She really toiled big time in that game against the Canberra Raiders. So she is playing fullback. We've got Jakaya Whitfield and Lenaz as the wingers. And then the centre pairing of Tafanga and Horn, and Lasana Lutu and Emily Curtin are the halves pairing as well. So a lot of changing in the back line, but I mean, Jakaya Whitfield saw her speed on display. I don't think she scored a try, but she definitely showed her speed. And the likes of a Jasmine Peters and a China Palata have got that coming at them this weekend. So they cannot give too much space, and they cannot miss their tackles on Jakaya Whitfield, who, wow, holy crap. Then the forward pack now, Togatuki, Ebony Pryor, Christian Pio, Kezi Apps. We've got Nevada George and Salata in the back row. And then the interchange bench reads Sophie Curtin, Gobran, Osborne, and Kennedy. Of course, I'm going to tip the Cowboys. I'm going to be there in attendance. I cannot wait to see how they go again in person. But yeah, come on, you Cowboys, and let's get 2 from 2, or two of 4 to start the season. And the second game at Totally Workwear Stadium on the Saturday afternoon is the home side, the Brisbane Broncos, taking on the Parramatta Eels. I would tend to suggest that the Broncos would be sitting at about $1.40, whereas the Eels would be sitting at about $2.90. And even then, I think that might be kind of generous. I think it might even be sitting at about $3.50 for the Parramatta Eels. So, however, this is the third meeting between the two sides, and they are sitting at 1-1, are they? So going into the Broncos team list news, we've got Maddock, Dam, Hafanga, Shizolka, Ashley Werner. We've also got Gail Broughton and Ali Brickenshaw that round out the back line. But here are the changes for the Broncos. So we've got Eels, Gould, and Brianna Clark as the starting front row. Aneta Nuasala and Destiny Brill suffering concussions last weekend, making them drop out, and they are very important to the Broncos. And the back line is Gray, Teitzel, and Mariah Denman, arguably the best back row in the NRLW competition. And then the interchange bench reads Jada Ferguson, Hannessy, Lenarduzzi, and Fogafini. Shifting to the Parramatta Eels now. First of all, Kennedy Cherrington. Oh man, what an awful bloody horizontal spear tackle on that Newcastle Knights player last weekend. Awful tackle. She'll miss maybe 3 weeks. And she's at the judiciary right now, and she has pleaded guilty. So we'll see how she goes, but she's not getting off for a couple of weeks. So she will be out of this game. But going into the team list, we've got Abby Church in at fullback, who just toils so hard, man. She is a really impressive fullback and has probably been the best player for them over the opening 3 weeks, I would say. And then the back row, the rest of the back row is Faye, Hunt, Tohi Hiku, Donovan, Berryman Duff, and there you go. Rachel Pearson finally makes her club debut for the Parramatta Eels in at halfback. She's going to be rusty, but it is a vital inclusion to keep their finals hopes alive for sure, because yeah, at 0-3 and not performing greatly, they got to start activating this weekend. And then the forward pack, we've got O'Neill, Cherrington, and there's the other one that's been missing, the other piece to the puzzle for the Parramatta Eels, is Elsie Albert. She will make her club debut this weekend against the Brisbane Broncos. Though, gee whiz. Oh, those are the two inclusions. Wow. Wow. Okay. And then the rest of the back row is Mully, Murphy, and well, Kennedy Charrington has been named anyway in the lock position. Why the hell would they be doing that? There's no freaking way she'd be getting off. So I don't know who they'd be putting in for her in the lock position. So forgive me ignorance on that count. And then the interchange bench is Pekal, Jones, Muru, and Kyra Simon. It's really hard to tip against the Brisbane Broncos in this game, even though the Eels are bolstered by two of their blockbuster signings during the off-season. Again, Kennedy Charrington, she will not be playing in this game, I'm sure of it. If she does, I'd be asking questions. I'll tip the Brisbane Broncos. The Eels, while they're 0-3, there have been patches of play against the Knights, against the Dragons, where they just hang tough and then just penalties or sin bins, they go against them. So I think they'll hang tough initially, especially with Pearson and Albert back, but I'm going to tip the Brisbane Broncos to win this one 13 plus. And moving into Sunday football, we got two cracking matches to look forward to. The first one being the Sharks versus the Roosters from PointsBet Stadium. And kickoff will be at midday. Going into the team list now, massive news inclusion for the Sharks. Jada Taylor returns in the full-back position. The rest of the back line, Takarangi, Penatane, Biddle shifts back to the centres. Andy Robinson comes back. Tonagato and Preston round out the back line. The forward pack, Ellie Johnston, Dodd. Holly Wheeler starts in jersey 10 this time round. Tali Holmes, Foliaki and Brooke Anderson. And then the interchange, Nato Katoka, Harata Butler returns from a one-game suspension. Tegan Dimmick and Chloe Saunders and Maddie Studden is floating around with jersey 18 on her back. And then for the Sydney Roosters, who were pretty impressive, man. Like it was a tough, well-fought contest against the Dragons, but they did well to streak away from them. And the Roosters did start quite well against the Dragons and never really let them let their feet off their necks, so to speak. There is only one change. Maya Hilmawana returns after a concussion, I think it was, but from an injury, and she comes onto the bench, and off goes Kirui into the reserves. Sharkies, I think they led every stat in their loss against the Gold Coast Titans last week, except for one, and that's offloads. They didn't make a single offload last weekend, so there wasn't enough, I don't know, dare and or adventure about the Sharks attack this past weekend. Not saying it was bad, just there was 0 offloads. Meanwhile, the Titans had 6. So if that's, and then there was an awful piece of luck for the Cronulla Sharks, fantastic for the Titans, when there was a strip inside the Titans try line zone and it was stripped by the Sharks, and then Shaylee Bent was there to just pop her hands on top of it to score the Titans' first 4 points inside the second half. So unlucky loss against the Sharks in a wet game, 10 points to 8. Roosters were impressive. This is hard to tip, man. The Sharks have now lost 2 in a row. The Roosters, they had a bit of a dip against the Raiders, and they looked pretty good last weekend against the Dragons. But the Sharks side, I think they're just about at full strength. I'm sure that is as good as it gets for the Sharks, I'm sure. Apologies if I'm missing someone. But just to give a few stats before I give me tip out. So Cronulla are first for kicking meters. The Roosters are not inside that top 5 for kicking meters, and they lead it by a long way. So they need to really boot the shit out of the ball this weekend. Corbin Baxter, however, is having a great return after giving birth, last year sort of thing, and she's been out of the game for a year or so now. But yeah, Corbin Baxter's having a great return to NRLW. So the kicking game and the kick returns of Corbin Baxter, that's going to be a jewel to look out for. But also Cronulla, they are the most penalised team in the NRLW so far in 2023. However, conversely, for discipline, the eastern suburbs sit inside the bottom five for handling errors. Plus, it is first versus second for post-contact meters. So if the eastern suburbs can rectify their handling errors, it's obviously going to bode well for them. If the Sharks can rectify their discipline in not giving away penalties, it's going to go a huge way for them. It should be a great game. Bugger it. I can't see the Sharks losing 3 in a row. That would be disastrous for them. So yeah, I'll tip Cronulla. I'm not confident, but that's only because this is going to be an even contest. It's going to be a great battle. I'm going to tip the Sharks to win this one, 1-12. And the final game of round number 4 of the 2023 NRLW season emanates from McDonald Jones Stadium on Sunday afternoon, and this is the game of the round. The Newcastle Knights, the Premiers, host the undefeated Gold Coast Titans, and you'd suggest that there'd be only a couple of cents difference in the betting market for sure. This is the third meeting between the two sides, and the overall record is 1-1. Both games have been decided by 4 points or less, and this is the first time that these two sides have met at McDonald Jones Stadium. Let's get into the team list news for the home side first, which is the Newcastle Knights. It goes Tamika Upton at fullback, Gallagher and Strange the wingers, Parker and Abigail Roach the centres. Georgia Roach and Jesse Southwell are the halves pairing. Kapani, Higgins and Butler the front row. Falila Kia, Yasmin Clydesdale and Hannah Southwell are the back row. Kia, I believe, is returning from a long-term injury in the second row. And then it interchanges Nita Maynard, Kayla Rumanak, Laishan Albert Jones, and Taylor Predabon in jersey number 17. Shifting over to the Gold Coast Titans now, that woman again who's leading the Dally M leaderboard at the moment, Avania Palete. She is in the fullback position. Karina Brown, who made a huge difference to the Titans against the Cronulla Sharks. She was top 3 for the Gold Coast Titans, maybe even best on ground. Karina Brown was huge for the Titans last weekend with just her merciless, no bullshit runs, man. And then Jamie Chapman returns, Niall Williams-Guthrie and Emily Bass. Chapman and Bass did not play in the victory against the Sharks last weekend, so they're massive inclusions. And then Shante Kirioratu and Sienna Lafipo are the halves pairing, and they've got to be the rookies or in contention for rookies of the year for sure. The forward pack, Marto, Brown and Elliston, Canfield, Bent and Georgia Hale, the back row. Interchanges Brillianati, Hancock, Riley Jorgensen, and Lake Clarkin. Unfortunately, Haley J. Ormond-Monsell, who scored that match winner against the Sharks, has been demoted to 18th player this weekend. This is going to be such a fantastic game. The Newcastle Knights, man, the scoreline, yeah, I guess it does reflect the dominance. They won, I think it was like 38-4 or a scoreline to that effect against the Eels this past weekend. But it took them a long time. It took them a long time to get rid of them until the point where it came in the second half. Kennedy Charrington then got sent off, and then Newcastle Knights just hit the accelerator and just destroyed them from then on in. But they had a bit of trouble of trying to get away the Parramatta Eels. Credit to the Eels, but yeah, the Newcastle Knights, I still think there's a lot more room for improvement. That scoreline doesn't mean they played a perfect game for sure. Meanwhile, for the Gold Coast Titans, man, they are just such a spirited outfit, doing it without Talia Fuemo-Ono as well for the past 3 weeks, doing it without Chapman and Bass last weekend at Shark Park as well. They are they are the most surprising. Like a lot of people would say, surprising really with that roster, but they were wooden spooners last year, and they're just playing terrific rugby league at the moment. One of the reasons why they must be, I think they must be undefeated. They are the least penalised side in the game. They're not bad for missed tackles, really. Like they're sort of mid at the moment. Newcastle Knights are about the same, but their discipline and the way they're playing the Titans just a lot just a really positive energy about the way they play, man. They're a well-coached side. And I said the word merciless just a minute ago, bro. This forward pack of Elliston and Marto and Benson Hale, bro, Elliston is having a cracker of a season. I think she would have to be in contention for best prop in the game right now in the NRLW. Top five at the very least. She's smashing it. Marto is having a fantastic season. Yeah, this Titans side, I think they are absolutely contenders to play finals. But if they go down to Newcastle and defeat the Knights on their home patch after they've been away from home for 3 weeks straight, defeating the Broncos in Golden Point, the Sharks at Sharp Park, and then the Premiers down in Newcastle. They are 1,000% the real deal, bro. 1,000%. And it is off the back of the forward pack. But I've been waxing lyrical about this young Shante Kirioratu for a year now or so. And she's just been so impressive in a time where she's just had to just straight away, like Talia Fuimaono was around for bloody 15 minutes in round one, and it's all been Shante Kirioratu ever since. Obviously, she's had support, but you know what I mean. She's had to do it in the halves alone with her other young mate, Sienna Lafipo, and Kirioratu is just a magnificent player that, again, will be around for years and years and years, bro. This is, again, like Sharks and Roosters, a seriously difficult game to tip. Um, I don't know. I mean, Tamika Upton is up there for, I think it's either try assists or line break assists. So she's not scoring them. She's actually having a hand in making them happen, which is a whole different story, a whole other dimension to her game as well, because she was scoring them last year. Um, I don't know. This is a true flip of the coin. Um, I'm just thinking to myself, surely it's 3 weeks on the trot. They've been on the road now, the Gold Coast Titans, and they've won collectively by 3 points. Um, and it's not going to be much more than that if they do win this weekend. Oh man, I really want to tip the Knights. They're playing really good footy. I know the Cowboys surprised them in round number two. Um, they're playing good footy. This Titan spirit, bro, it's really fun to watch. They're a great side to sit down and have a go at. And just as I'm about to give my tip, I remember that Caitlin Johnston has been suspended for a week for a high tackle, I believe it was, and Johnston was in fiery form before her suspension, so she will not be playing. That is a massive out for the Newcastle Knights. Ride the wave, baby. I'll go the Gold Coast Titans. Oh, in a beauty. I'm going to tip the Titans to win this game 1-12. Gold Coast Titans to win this game 1-12, and that would then 1,000% make them the real deal this year. Thank you so much for the continuous support, guys. You catch me in the next episode. Hope your team wins this weekend, except for the West Tigers. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you again for the support. Take care. Adios.